plus, you need to incorporate when you come back.
All right, I call this meeting of the Union County Board of Adjustment to order, February 10th, 2020. First item on the agenda is confirmation of a quorum, and we do have a quorum here tonight. Item number 3, first of all, we need to amend our agenda. Number 3, we cannot do because we do not have those minutes. Therefore, we will remove that item from the agenda. I'd also like to add item 5A. Mr. King would like to present a quick analysis or briefing, I guess you'd say, of where we stand on a comprehensive plan for Union County. So he will present that item 5A. Is that okay with everyone to add that? Is that good? Okay. All right. Do we need to vote on that, or can we just add that?
Let's go ahead and do the vote.
Okay. All in favor of the agenda changes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Item number 4, appeal of petition 2019001.
All right, so staff has received an email from Mr. Richard Hutaff. He is the attorney representing Bill Cochran, the developer of the Wild Place subdivision. He is suffering some serious health issues at the time. So Mr. Hutaff not only emailed us, but also emailed Mr. Bo Cottle, who is representing the residents of Huey Road, and they have, he's fine with doing a continuation. Staff is fine with doing a continuation, so at this time, it's up to the board whether or not to continue the public hearing until March.
If y'all recall, we are still in the public hearing. We did not close it. So therefore, basically, what they're asking is to continue it another month. So we would need to vote to continue, yes or no, another month. So I'll hear any motions.
I make a motion, we continue it another month.
Motion, Mr. Tilley, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Sorry. Item number 5, discussion of a workshop for members. I believe we missed the time frame on that this time, so
Yes, sir, that is correct. Because you are a public body, and anytime a public body meets, it's got to be advertised. This would be considered a special meeting, so it would have to be advertised 48 hours in advance, and
we missed it.
we missed it.
Even though we're not going to be making any decisions or anything like that, we still have to advertise our meeting, so if someone wants to come, they can come.
So-
Unfortunately, we failed to do that somewhere along the line, so we will not do that today at 5 o'clock when we were supposed to. Is it okay with everyone if we do that in March?
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
Good with that?
Yep, yes.
All right, I believe it was the 9th, is that correct, Mr.?
9th or
Yes.
10th?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yep.
The 9th.
Okay.
All right, well, 5 o'clock, same
Sir.
time, same place. This time it will get advertised, so you do not get an email the morning of and telling you not to come.
I will go ahead and make sure that I'll get that advertisement typed up tomorrow
Thank you,
in the
sir.
clerk's hands,
We
so
appreciate that.
it will be advertised well beforehand.
All right, excellent. All right, item 5A, comprehensive plan update. Mr. King had asked if he could just give us a little brief update on where we are. Mr. Tilley and I both serve on different committees, but we are on committees that are looking at our comprehensive plan. What's it called? 2050 plan, Vision 2050.
That's correct.
And I guess for more than anything, we want you guys to kind of know what's going on so that you know, and if anybody approaches you and asks you, you kind of got an idea where we're going. It's a year-long process, and we are just starting, but we've got a ton of information. A lot of it has been interesting. A lot of it's been interesting. But anyway, it's keeps you busy, don't it? Am I right? So, Mr. King, if you would, just go ahead and
All right.
start from,
I'll walk up here, and for the audience, why don't we go ahead and explain what has happened thus far?
Yeah, if you're here for the public hearing, we are continued until March the 9th. At 7 o'clock, we will have that. So if you're here for the public hearing, it has been continued. You're free to stay or you're free to leave. Thank you.
And I will say, when I talked with Mr. Cottle today, he did say that they felt that they were getting close to a resolution, so hopefully when they come back in March, Mr. Cochran's health's better, so he can be here, and they will find a resolution and can withdraw the appeal.
Good deal.
So, kind of give you a background of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, Union County Planning is undertaking a project we're calling the 2050 Comp Plan. It's a comprehensive plan. It's all encompassing. It's going to have a very strong focus on land use, but also it's going to drive decisions for a lot of other things other than just planning. It's going to have an emphasis on, road widening projects, on where development goes, where infrastructure is going to go, how do we deal with the agricultural industry in Union County. So there's a lot of information. And a comp plan, what it is a policy document. The way we use it in planning is if somebody comes into our office and says, I'd like to rezone my property. First thing we do is we pull the comp plan out and say, okay, well, this is compatible with what the comp plan is calling for, or this is in conflict with the comp plan is calling for. That's how we have a basis to say, yes, staff can recommend approval on your request or support your request, or no, staff cannot support your request. Typically, comp plans are updated every 5 to 10 years. The comp plan that we're working on right now was adopted in 2014. Here we are in 2020, so it's almost 6 years old. So it's time to go back through and look at that comp plan. Also, when that comp plan was derived, it was very aggressive. As you can see, Union County has experienced a lot of growth here. Kind of give you some examples. Rezonings from 2004 or 2004 to 2014, there was 10 rezonings over a 10-year period. From 2015 to current, there's been 46 rezonings. So you can see where the current comp plan has been a very aggressive plan. We also codified our zoning ordinance, and with that, we went to a legislative rezoning process, which takes it out of used to when you do a rezoning, you can do it one or two ways. You can just do a straight rezoning, or you could do a straight rezoning with a parallel conditional use district. We got away from that in 2014, which is good because the state legislature has changed or is in the process of changing the regulations effective January 1st of 2021, where you can't do the parallel rezoning conditional use. It has to be a legislative conditional zoning now, and that's what we do currently. What it does is engages our commissioners so that they can work with the applicant and negotiate out different regulations or ways to mitigate impacts, similar to what you do with the special use permits type of deal. So yeah, it was time for us to start looking at this. It's time. We had a workshop this summer with the county commissioners, went through a lot of stuff, got the municipalities involved in it, and at that time it was very evident that we needed to move forward with this. And so where we are now is what this presentation is about. This presentation was put together by one of my colleagues, Bjorn Hansen. He's our transportation planner. Really good guy, and he does a real good job. He's kind of taken the lead on this comp plan because he doesn't have as much to do as me and Lee. Keeps him busy. And speaking of Lee, as some of you may know, Mr. Black has retired, and Lee Jensen's now our planning director. So, all right, so move forward with this. Let me get this slide going. All right. So what we've done thus far is staff has sat down and said, okay, we need to kind of set the parameters of how we're going to move forward. So what we did is we said, let's get some subcommittees put together. And then once we get these subcommittees put together, let's have them funnel into a coordinating committee. And then that coordinating committee is going to be the one that sounds to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners ultimately are going to be the ones that adopt or reject the comp plan. So the subcommittees that we've put together, it was agricultural, which Mr. Tilley is on, thank you very much. Business, citizens, environmental, and infrastructure, which Darren is on, and he is also chairing that committee for us as well. And then, as I said before, those 4 committees will, funnel into the coordinating committee, and there'll be a representative from each one of these boards on the coordinating committee, plus each one of the commissioners is able to appoint one person of their liking to this committee as well. So it's made up of 10, 11 people. So we've met, we've done our introduction, we've talked to the subcommittees about visioning. First step in this is we got to come up with a vision statement. And so the second meeting that we had, we coordinated with all the different subcommittees. We handed them sticky notes, and we asked them questions, and we asked them to write their answers down on these sticky notes. And it's basically, where do you see Union County going in 2050? What do you want Union County to look like in 2050? What's the most important things, aspects of Union County? That, one, what can we do better with? What can we improve? And what have we done good with? So we took all those comments, and there was over 200 comments from the 5 subcommittees. And we took those comments and we put them on a spreadsheet. And from that spreadsheet, this is where we are. So basically, the vision statement, it describes what your values are, what your aspirations are, where you want to be in a specified time in the future. Bjorn's favorite little saying here is the vision statement functions like a captain as they steer a ship to stay the course on its journey as changes occur. All right. So what have we heard from the committees in January, in which this is the same presentation we took to the committees for our February meeting. So the committees universally preferred the Tallahassee model as far as vision statements go. Tallahassee model basically gives an opening statement, and everything else is bullet pointed down after that. Very simple. There's over 200 specific pieces of information that we received. We classified it into 12 different categories. Environment, community, diversity, business, and economic development, and transportation were the categories that were most discussed. Environmental comments, almost all the environmental comments came from the environmental committee. Same with the agricultural comments. All of the agricultural comments came from the agricultural committee. And safety, utilities, and agriculture were the least mentioned through those discussions. So in February, we went back to the subcommittees, as I said, and got some more feedback from them. That feedback said that what we want you to do is we want you not only to, in those themes, list out the positives, but we want you to put observations in there and give us the weaknesses and the strengths as well. So staff has incorporated those. Now, there was 4 visions that staff had kind of lumped everything together in that we felt were things to move forward with. And those themes were supporting municipalities, infrastructure, market-driven, and we work on interconnected, but now cooperative. So, like discussing the themes in the previous slide, there's opportunities now to revise these themes. What I think we will probably find out is we're going to take elements from one thing and add them to another thing to maybe come up with a hybrid theme. We've got a little bit more work to do, our subcommittees are going to do some more discussion, and then as they discuss and come up with ideas and suggestions to give to the coordinating committee, which will move forward with adopting a vision and taking that vision to the county commissioners and saying, and what that vision really is there to do is to say, okay, as we move forward with this, once we get finished with the visioning statements, or the visioning statement per se, we're gonna start moving into scenario planning. But you need to have that vision in place, because as you start keying in different points of data and everything into those scenarios, you know, if somebody says, well, let's go down this road. If that road doesn't fall within our vision, then no, then that's steering us off course. Somebody goes, well, let's go down this road, and yes, that's right here, and that falls in those parameters of our vision, that stays our course, and that's what we need to stick with. That way, it's kind of a placekeeper, keeping us from going, you know, off base and where we don't need to go. Right now, they're reviewing to see what themes to keep, what to remove, input on specific themes, how to collect input, how to choose a preferred vision. Now, some assumptions that are underway for any scenario that we move forward with or theme. So Union County Public Schools will strive to provide a quality education to every student. NCDOT, crypto is the metropolitan planning area for Charlotte. They deal with our transportation. Union County and all of its municipalities will continue to participate in transportation planning and project prioritization. Bjorn's talking about this project prioritization is like our critical intersection analysis, street improvements, widenings like with Highway 16, stuff of that nature, how the money's going to be spent. Union County will continue to support agricultural industry and its related uses. In this one, the next one is very important because it talks about with the Metrolina model, and that's what we've used to be our crystal ball, to kind of give us some predictions for the future, showing us that we should be getting on average 47,000 people migrating to this county per decade, which means every year 4,700 people. Me and Lee broke that down. We went to see what the average density was per household, and that was around 2.89 persons. And so when you take 4,700 and you plug that number in, you're looking roughly around 1,600 households. That's another reason why this plan is so important. Where are we going to put those houses? And this is going to help us make those policy decisions as we go down the road.
Jim, can I stop you right there, Jim?
Oh, and you and Mark jump in any time because.
Well, see, the thing that we've been shared with, I know Mark has, these 4,700 people are gonna move here.
Yes.
4,700 or 47,000?
4,700 a year are gonna
Yes.
move here.
Yes,
And the bottom line is, we've created a community where people wanna move to, and they're coming.
that's right.
And so the frustration is, there's this thought that we can stop them from coming, but they're not gonna stop.
They're not.
Unless there's a few things that could happen. Economy could tank, taxes could go up so high they don't wanna come here, schools could start not being any good, but it's really out of our control. And so the process is, and what they're telling us, and help me if I don't, is we wanna figure out where we're gonna put them. Are we gonna put them on farmland in New Salem? Or are we gonna put them somewhere where it's more dense? And so it's kind of a frustrating place to be in, but, in my position, and I don't, Mark, tell me what you think, it's kind of, you know, what do you do?
Well, one thing is, we've got to be smarter
Yeah.
about when we do things. One example I used, look at 74 coming through Monroe there. There's nowhere for 74 to grow.
Right.
74 is what it's gonna be, because they've let them build on top of it. And then, after seeing that, we don't learn, because Indian Trail turned around and allowed the same situation on Old 74 through Indian Trail. So we've got to get smart about this stuff and start learning how to do things in a way that, because we are going to be bringing in more people. And just in the agriculture, you know, most people, when they think agriculture business, that we're talking about crops and stuff or animals. No. We're talking about Tyson. We're talking about Pilgrim's Pride. We're talking about industries that are putting millions of dollars back into their facility to be good stewards of the county to save on water.
We're talking about that farm supply place we proved up
Yeah.
on 74
Yeah.
not too long ago.
And then,
just
but
getting ready
then
to
we've
mention
got turnaround, and we've got municipalities allowing all this huge growth that is sucking away the water that we could use to generate more businesses that pay better taxes to help the county grow.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How is the infrastructure being figured into this? You're talking about bringing these people in, and the way the
That's
infrastructure.
just it.
is
It's
now-
not been, that's the problem.
that's the problem.
It wasn't.
That's
It
the struggle.
wasn't figured in.
That's the
And
struggle.
one of the things to point out right now too is that our Public Works Department is working on a CIP plan, master plan, capital improvements master plan. And that CIP is gonna cover water and sewer. But they're waiting on us to come up with our plan so they can model their plan after ours.
What part of the county is that going to, their plan gonna be? Is the total Union County, or the western part of the county, or the eastern part?
We really don't know that yet
That's
because,
one of the decisions we're trying to make. And
yes,
one of the discussions we've had in our infrastructure committee meeting is how to, the struggle is, you've got a road here that's a mile long and you got 10 houses on it. And the cost to run a water line down a mile-long road is unbelievable for 10 houses, and hopefully all 10 of them sign up, and if even all 10 of them do sign up,
it's
you ain't
half a
never gonna
million.
pay for it. So it's like, how do you afford that? It's a huge, it's a
Well,
quandary that nobody can
And
help
then-
me understand, 'cause
And the other thing is, there was decisions made in the past because they didn't fathom this growth.
Mhm.
And yet, just like, for example, one thing is the water we get from Anson County. When we made that deal with them years ago, they had to run a certain size pipe all the way to the county line. Well, instead of the decision being made at that time to hook up to the same size pipe and bring it on in, no, it was put down to a smaller pipe. Well, then there you had to turn around and do the same thing over again.
Yep.
And it was decisions like that. And probably a lot was made like that because things like this
people
weren't
weren't assuming,
happening.
people wasn't assuming what the future was gonna be.
And-
And there's been, see, through these subcommittees, what they're able to do is they're able to pick topics of interest. Like Citizens Committee, and I know the Infrastructure Committee have listened to Public Works. Public Works enlightened us to say, hey, you know how much it costs to run a mile of water line? It's $500,000. It's a lot of money. The other thing that they were talking about is we want to get our water from a more reliable water supply. Not to say Anderson County is not liable, but as going back before, as Mark was saying, different size pipes and the compatibility not being there. If we can find another source that's more compatible, we're gonna probably go with that, which really hurts Anderson County because we make up 40% of their user base.
Mhm.
Well, we also get a bunch from Lancaster.
We do.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand, if the commissioners in the early 90s hadn't have approved the Lancaster plant, none of these houses in Union County, in western Union County would be here, because they would have no water, because that's where most of our water comes from. But it's a very complex,
And
the whole thing is very, very
One
complex.
thing that's concerning is it seems like everybody's concerned about the water. What about the sewer?
well, there's
There's
another
another
thing.
issue.
People don't realize, a lot of that sewer on the western side of the county is pumped all the way out there to Pineville to that place, that sewer plant out there by the mall.
Yeah, the
So I
sewer
mean, there's
capacity-
been a lot of good, I guess you'd say, good
Good
deals
decisions.
made in the past to do things, but they're expensive deals.
The place we're at right now, there's not a lot of sewer left.
No.
And so if you got business that wants to come to Union County, I don't know. I mean, even the hospital that they're building, it was questionable whether there was gonna be enough sewer to handle it. And it's a complex, complicated issue that requires thinking beyond today. You really gotta think 2050, really, to understand this mess. And you gotta think 2050, you gotta think, well, it's gonna cost today. You know how our federal government right now is just spending money like crazy, and our grandkids are gonna have to pay for it someday, or somebody's grandkids are, or great-grandkids or something. But the point here is, we're gonna have to pay. We're gonna have to pay if we're going to be able to handle any kind of change in Union County, I think, based on, growth, particularly when it comes to commercial, because we're all residential right now. We're 83% residential, 17% commercial on our tax base. That's not where you wanna be. Nobody wants to be there. But problem is, that's where we've been, Bill, since Bill was 12 years old, probably. And that's been a few years. But you know what I'm saying? It's been that way forever, am I right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, we keep building houses and we don't, so it never changes, you know, and so.
Will there ever be a point
That's
where
what
the
I'm,
moratorium will go back on building?
I don't know.
Let the infrastructure catch back up to where it's at?
That's
They've
unfortunately not our
changed-
decision.
Yeah, they have changed the state law on moratoriums, and it's almost like you have to write a sources or a thesis paper to justify having one. You can't just say we're growing too fast. We're gonna have a moratorium. It doesn't work that way.
It don't work that way. And the thing is, if we put ourselves into becoming an undesirable location, then our property values start dropping because
Well-
nobody wants to move here anymore. So it's a complex.
Can I ask a question about the moratorium? Can you do it for like 6 months?
There's some statutory requirements. I'd have to go through
They're
and
all-
read the
It's
statutes.
it's all state controlled?
Yeah,
then?
it's,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
But one of the other things that where this is very important, we was talking about the cost of, what'd you say, $500,000 for a mile of water line?
Yes.
Okay. Probably at the time that pipe was put in at Anson, they could have probably went a mile with the correct size pipe at that time for probably, I'm just guessing, and I may be off, but I'm gonna say around $100,000 a mile at that time. At that, because it was cheaper back then. So then you go back and you redo it just to bring that up to date, and you're paying 5 times as much for what it could have been done if it had done right. That's one of the things we need to learn from. Don't matter how you feel about growth, eventually, there's a lot of stuff we don't have no control over. Just like, for example, the municipalities. We can make all the rules we want to in the county, but they have their own boards and their own deal, and you can't cut them out of the county, so you gotta deal with it. It's something you have to deal with. Whether you agree with it or not, you gotta deal with it.
And unfortunately, the way the water and sewer goes, it's first come, first served. So if they're approving all the density,
They're getting all this water and
they're
sewer.
they're getting all the water and sewer.
Yeah, it really is one of those, I just wanted to point that out, that we're gonna grow, and one of the things that the coordinating committee has decided, we're not gonna talk about anti-growth, cause it's just not you can't, we're going to grow. So our goal is to figure out a way to have smart growth to try to bring us to a place that we're not right now, but hopefully we can get to a little better place where we can work with some of these municipalities to try to plan a little better and grow a little better and use the resources we have a little better and use the resources we're gonna have a little better than we have in the past, because the 4,700 people a year are coming. What do we wanna do with them? Do we wanna, how are we gonna handle them? That's kinda where we are.
Well,
You
just
know-
like the final statement,
Commissioner,
okay, guys, we're out of sewer. We've got to do something.
So-
Will commissioners make that decision?
Yeah, so what happens is, we're regulated by the state. DEQ regulates us. So when we get to 70% capacity, they say, hey, guys, you guys started looking at doing something. When we get at 80% capacity, guys, you gotta start doing your study now. Get to 90% capacity, guys, you better bring something out of the ground. Because we don't wanna get to 100% capacity, because
It's over there.
it's over. And there's no telling, I mean, when we were talking, you know, what happens to Anson County if Union County pulls out? Because they're not gonna have the revenues to maintain their infrastructure, their water infrastructure. So, do they just shut it down? Does the state come in and take it over? I don't know. We haven't got there, but.
You're liable to get big fines from my experience, but in New York, you know, basically, the developer, for example, the sewer is a big problem. We did have a sewer plant, and the county expanded it, but still, there's an end to that capacity. And so, you know, they end up having to, instead of getting, let's say, 100 homes in a subdivision, they have to set aside acreage for a septic system. And, you know, where they treat the water and then it's purified to the point where you can drink it, and then they, you know, put it back in the ground.
Well, see, we have another problem here, though. We have a problem here, a lot of our wells contain arsenic in this county.
Yeah.
80% of them.
Yeah, and, I mean, a
Worse
person
than
just
state.
built next to me here in the last year or so, and, he told me the other night, he said, my well test come back that was 9% over the acceptable limit. So now I'm gonna have to have my well tested
Yeah.
and see. But with the land we have in Union County, putting in septic tanks is very, very, very expensive.
And difficult.
You don't just, yes, and the majority of the septic tanks or the septic systems, probably, I'm gonna estimate, what, 30,000 for a home to put in a new system with all them pumps and all that mess? Close
I know
to
that
it.
when we moved to Union County back in 2014, we bought a house that was 20 years old, and the septic field was failing. So to have all the lateral lines dug up, the contaminated soil taken out, new laterals put in, and new dirt brought in, cost us $7,500. That did not include the septic tank, the
Right,
holding
that was
tank.
just repairing an existing system.
Mhm.
And then now we went to this new type system that they basically put together like a puzzle.
Right.
They dig out a big section that put, yeah, and, they went
Well,
from.
developers can also put in their own, I know there's a system up at Tallwood that the developer put in, I don't know what that costs, but Union County took that site over, so the developers can put in like a local system.
Well, we had
They
one
call
at
it a
Wesley
packaging
Chapel
plant.
one time at our wedding, and
Excuse
had a
me?
problem.
They call it a packaging.
Yeah,
plant.
package plant, basically, and,
Yeah.
so there's options out there for developers, but anyway, I'm sorry, I just wanna,
But
No
not
problem.
for high-density building.
no, not for high density, they would have
And
to
that's,
look,
that was one of the problems I had. It says reliance on the RRA 40 zoning. may
yeah, you're
not
looking at the
result
sporting
in
municipality,
agricultural protection. Well, it's not, as long as we allow them to rezone it
right,
for high density. And I've seen that happening on Rocky River Road.
It
with Baldwin
happens all
City
over the
Road.
place.
They were
So-
gonna put 1,400 houses in a place, and now we've got a rezoning issue down on South Rocky River Road. They're wanting to put 300 and something houses in a agricultural property there. And if we allow the rezoning, you're just gonna pack them in where we gotta provide water and sewer for them.
Right.
If we don't have the water and sewer for them, I'm sorry, you can't put 4,700 people in this county if we don't provide them water and sewer.
yeah, I agree.
Well, and the downfall of that is if people are coming and they want to live in this county so bad, they're willing to live on 1 acre lots, out in the rural part of the county, on well and septic. We have no mechanism to turn them down. It's a by right development. And so with the, and I hope everybody's had a chance to read the slide.
Yeah, please read this slide. This is just one option.
So this is talking about
One of them.
supporting municipalities. The big thing of it is here is saying, okay, look, if we support municipalities and their land use plans, and that's where our high density growth goes, then, you know, we're not putting in infrastructure out here in these rural areas. So, you know, you're setting clear boundaries to your, hopefully setting clear boundaries to your municipalities, but, you know, you're creating, growth that is mix of residential and commercial that's close together. So that's reducing your vehicular trips. You're creating destination points. Some of the downfalls on that though is if the Weddingtons of the world don't want commercial growth. All they want to do is be a bedroom community to Charlotte. We have no control over that. And so how's that affecting us? Is that pushing it right back into our face again, where it's going out into rural areas? Which kind of leads us to our next slide here, talking about infrastructure. I hope you guys will take the opportunity to read this slide. But, you know, one of the things that Bjorn's got highlighted on here, he says, that Union County in 2050 is a place defined by efficiently providing services, limited development where capacity is not present, and deliberate consideration of where to expand capacity. So residents, employers, and the county could expect, first thing on here is lowest possible utility rates, because we're not going to be extending utilities. It's just bottom line. And, you know, if it's extending, you got to pay for it, because we're not. You know, by doing that, you know, we're preserving, you know, our rural areas. You're looking at a range of land use growth, higher density where utilities are present, which is going to be in most of your municipal locations. So in a lot of respects, infrastructure and municipal support are very close. Whereas the only big difference is when we're focused on infrastructure, infrastructure is just not limited to the municipalities. When you're looking at municipal support, it is kind of focusing on those municipalities. Some of the observations was that it gives us the ability to control high density growth, reduces development in the rural areas unless of, again, going back to the R40 and RA40 zoning classification that's out there that encompasses the majority of the unincorporated area of Union County. If people are wanting, if, you know, Ted Smith farmer wants to sell his 100 acres off to a developer, put in 1 acre lots with septic and, you know, wells. Can't stop them.
Well, you know, I'm glad you said that, because in one of our meetings, we discussed the fact that there's some of the farming outfits, they'll farm land for a while. At first they go in, they take the trees off, and then they come in, they farm it a while. And then maybe it turns out to be an area to where is really a good hot spot for a development, and they sell it off to the developers, and they build a development there. Well, if they sell 2,000 acres of land to build a development, they're not cutting down farming 2,000 acres that year. They're gonna go over here and cut down 2,000 acres of tree and build another field to farm that spot at, because they're set up to have a certain amount of acreage per year for the containers and the equipment they deal with. Well, the problem with that is, when the farmer goes in there and clears it out, he can clear the thing out, and he can farm it. But if a developer went in there and developed that wooded area,
He's got to
a
save
lot
trees.
of that natural landscape would have to stay. Well, we're coming to a point to where if we don't do something, we're gonna end up in the same shape of Charlotte with our pollution levels and all. because the trees and all that is what filters the air that keeps our pollution level down. Because that's what happened to Mecklenburg County. They cut all their darn trees down, and then they didn't have no way to filter the pollution that was naturally gonna go up there. If we're not careful, we're gonna end up into that situation.
I'm gonna move on ahead if that's all right. So we talked about market driven. Market driven is exactly what it sounds like. The market's taking the development to where it wants to go. It's all about where can I find cheap land and get the most return for my money. Market driven also could be get into that school district that you want to be in. Stuff of that nature. But it's not us dictating where the growth goes, it's where those people coming into Union County want to be, and that's where the growth goes. With that being said, then you have infrastructure costs with that. You may not have a whole lot of control over the density levels. Again, this plan, is going to help us with that because we can look at our adopted plan and say, look, our adopted plan is not calling for anything more than 2 units per acre, and you're proposing 4 units per acre. So staff can't support your request. But then again, when it goes to, county commissioners, they can always say, well, we love this plan. We're going to approve your plan, and then we're going to amend our comp plan to reflect it. But still, that comp plan is supposed to be a policy guide, not a regulatory document. Has everybody had a chance to read this slide right here? And some of you might not know what the acronym NIMBY stands for Not in My Backyard.
Right.
We ready to move on? Okay, and then the last one, staff called it interconnected. When we went to the Citizens Committee, did not like it being called interconnected, so that they just really didn't understand what that meant. So we said, okay, well, what about cooperative? Because this is where everybody works together. It's where all the municipalities work together to create a fabric with similar weave. So if I'm driving down Potter Road, I really can't tell if I'm in Stallings or Indian Trail or Weddington, because it all kind of blends together. Which could be a good thing, because what happens if, Weddington's comp plan calls for 1 acre lots. But Indian Trail, who's our next door neighbor, their comp plan for along Potter Road calls for high density residential. And it's gonna be, a brick wall at that municipal divide. People know, but take a chance and opportunity, read through this real quick. Some of the observations that were made was you have to have coordinated efforts. That means that everybody's got to be on the same page. Increase capacity to meet collective challenges such as stormwater, open space, greenways, walking networks, increase recreation opportunities. But these programs cost money, so it may bring an increase to the taxes that we have to pay. Again, one thing that, as Darren had said earlier, our commercial versus our residential is 17% to 83%. Commercial development offsets the cost of residential development. What that means, for the services that the county provides, most residential taxes do not pay for them, so they have to be subsidized. And that comes from your commercial development. If we don't get it from your commercial development, then your tax rate goes up. Because county's not in the business of making money, we're in the business of breaking even and offering those services. So, with that, I told you I wanted to keep it short, and it went a little bit longer than I was hoping to go. But that's an update of where we stand with our comp plan 2050.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, go right ahead.
Last Thursday, we had probably one of the worst storm days I've
Yeah.
dealt with in the last 30 years I've been in this county.
They confirmed 6 tornadoes.
Yes. And we have some of the best people in the world in place that guard after our schools. Well, our infrastructure is so bad in a lot of areas that the decision had to be made that the middle school and the high school at Porter Ridge, the buses couldn't run. The bus driver, they couldn't do it because there were so many roads in the area flooded. And not real sure that this particular one I'm gonna talk about was in it, but right there as you come in, before you get to Sun Valley High School, going up that road, right there where that little trailer park is, behind the Publix and the theater. Oh my God, the water was like a river coming, standing in there. So all this development happened right there at it. Nobody bothered to think ahead for that. And that's where we have to get smart. And we can't stick these schools out there in the middle of a field because it was a good clear spot of land or a good available piece of land and not think about the safety of the kids getting to and from it in inclement weather. And let's face it, whether it's global warming, whatever, we're seeing different weather than we've seen in a long time here lately. Whether it be a different weather pattern or not, it don't matter. It's here. We got to deal with it.
That's all I got.
I have a question about the storm. Was that a 100-year storm, or?
I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to our
I guess it's
stormwater
still,
engineer.
they're still looking at it probably. Curious.
Sadly, apparently, based on what I'm hearing, we might have some more tomorrow, so, our weather patterns have changed. Last couple of years ago, we had the hurricanes come through here and it was bad. We definitely have some areas that are struggling with regards to, infrastructure. Thank you, Jim, for bringing that. Jim wanted to do that, and I agreed it was a good idea. So you kind of know what's going on as a committee, as we go forward, and if people talk to you, maybe have a little more information than you had before, and if you need more, there's lots of stuff on the internet from the county's website. Please go look at it.
And as we get further in the process, we'll be happy on a evening that we don't have a big, large agenda to do this again.
Yeah.
Well, on the weather, I can guarantee you about one thing. It'll be a hot, dry summer because all this money I've spent on fertilizer and stuff for my yard.
It will be a waste. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make motion, adjourn.
Second.
Can I say something?
What's it pertaining to?
To this right here, this water system, I was an electrical contractor.
Well,
for all-
not,
For all my life.
no, so I'm sorry.
Let's close the meeting down and then.
It's not really the place that, okay.
I thought
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. You wanna go ahead and, just give us 1 second. You feel free to.
I worked on sewer plants and water plants in Lancaster County